Welcome to Whores Talk Horror.
We're not really whores. We just like wordplay.
Welcome to Whores Talk Horror, and this is going to be part 2 of our interview discussion with Tatiana and her mom, Adriana.
A very special episode, if you will.
And so let's begin with part 2.
All right.
And he was my age. I mean, anyone that age, are they prepared?
No.
I'm prepared. I know because I've died.
What? Okay. Elaborate.
I've died too.
What? Okay.
All right.
Both of you need to. Adriana, you tell us about how you died. And then Tatiana, we need to hear how you died.
But this is really exciting. It's very exciting because I am not afraid to die. I am not afraid to die. I am so welcoming it when it comes, really. Because I was 10 years old and went to Colombia, South America, to visit my grandmother before she passed away. And she was really sick, and my mom sent me to an uncle who had a farm, a chicken farm.
Oh, wow.
And it was up in the hills and a lot of beautiful. So we did a lot of beautiful stuff. And it was just gorgeous. Colombia is the most beautiful place you ever want to go. It's like Puerto Rico. And so anyways, of course, my aunt tells us, don't get on that tree in the morning because the leaves are all wet and you fall. We got to do it, right?
Yeah.
So I was 10 years old. I went up there, and it was my cousin, my brother, and I went up there. It was really high up. It was about 9 feet. Yeah, it was, stories, 9 stories.
I'm not good with heights, so
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have joined you.
So the way it was like it was a hill, so it was a cliff, and the tree was on the bottom of the cliff, and then where we were at, we just met the tree
Okay.
up there. So we hopped on there, not realizing how far to the real ground we were, because there was a cliff on there.
Wow.
And I fell. And I fell forward. And when I fell forward, boom, I felt my head like an echo in my head. And I was standing next to them, my brother and my cousin. And my brother's looking and my cousin is looking, and she's like screaming. And when she screamed, I kind of looked, and I was like, what the heck? And I'm telling my brother, go get me, go get me. I'm telling my brother. And then my cousin yelled to the workers on the farm, but I was there. And then I smelled, I felt, I did everything. I was back at the pond that we were at. I was at my aunt's kitchen. I was everywhere.
Interesting.
And the smells and the sun and the colors were this fluorescent. I can't explain it. It's like when you have a fluorescent lights, that's how the light was, like everything that I saw. And the trees were talking to me, and everything was talking to me, and everything was there. And you know how when you go and lay out on the beach and you're halfway in the water and the sun is hitting on you and you feel that, like that tranquil type of thing?
Yes.
And all the light, that's where I was. I was so amazing. I was so happy. I was so loving it. Like I was energy everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. I was even with my dad, who was in Chicago, and I was in South America. I was like everywhere. I was everywhere in the whole universe. I was it. I was like God. I was like the force, the thing that made us all.
Connected.
I was there. Yeah. And then I saw the worker come and picked up my body. And when they picked up my body, I fell in it. And I fell in it again. And I was like, where it happened? I must have broken something, and a rib or something, because I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe for days. And I couldn't tell my aunt because she told me not to go in the tree.
Isn't that funny when you're kids? You're like, I just don't want to get in trouble.
I don't want to get in trouble, So you walk around with a broken something. So that was the experience. That's the experience that I know happens. I know it happens. I am so...
That's beautiful. I hope it's like
beautiful.
that for everyone.
It's beautiful. It's
that makes
amazing.
me feel-
It's like...
I, really quick, because I want to hear more of your stories, but you just validated something, because my dad has had numerous dreams where he would be with his loved ones that had passed, and he described exactly that. The sun, the brilliance, the color. And he's like, I don't know, I think it's just a dream, but my dad has shown things. So you just validated my dad.
Awesome.
He's going to be very excited.
And let me
that.
tell you, I believe in me, because there's no way, who am I going to talk to about that? But I believe that because I was at that age, I wasn't attached to anything.
Yeah.
So if someone is attached to their mother, to their father, to their whatever, they want to stay there. I know I'm not going to be attached to anything because I want to be there. I want to know what you're doing. I'm going to be everywhere and helping everything. That's what I know I'm going to do.
Wow.
So, Tatiana, tell us about your experience when you died.
Well, mine was it was a lot different. I had appendicitis. My appendix had ruptured, and I went into the hospital.
How old were you?
This was like 5 years ago.
Oh my God.
This was recent. Yeah, not that long ago. The depth of the story is that my appendix had ruptured in October, and then I didn't know until March.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so usually when somebody's appendix ruptures, they pass out or they get taken to the emergency room or something, right? Well, I'm a professional dancer as well. Like I do ballet and jazz and contemporary, all those things. And so when I felt the rupture, I thought I pulled a muscle
Wow.
because I was in ballet. I was in class. And so I didn't think anything of it. I used to be competitive cheerleading, so everything was walk it out, stretch it out, whatever. Don't worry about it. Keep going. So I did. And throughout those months, I was feeling like vertigo. I was feeling nauseous. I was feeling like really sick to my stomach. And then I had like appointments with doctors, and doctors would tell me that, like I needed overtired or some crazy thing. At one point, they thought that maybe I had some type of cancer and I had to do some surgery or whatever. And I kept telling them where the pain was, and they were like, "Oh, you probably stretched something out or whatever." Being a dancer, And then all of a sudden, I couldn't keep my food down. And my mom, and that was in March, and my mom's like, "Listen to me, Tatiana. I want you to go to the emergency room. I think you have appendicitis."
Yeah.
She's like, "Go in there, let them know, even have them do like a scan or something, So I go in there, and sure enough, they were like, "Oh, we think it's a swollen ovary."
I'm like, you tell them now.
She's like, "Tell them to do, the scan." And that was the hardest thing for me, to be honest, because I'm allergic to the iodine.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the only thing that they can do.
Right.
And so they did that, and that's when they saw that what happened is that this is a very rare case, and apparently this used to happen many, many years ago, but our bodies have evolved and changed, so things are different now. But my appendix ruptured, and my immune system cocooned the bacteria, keeping me alive.
And it pushed it in. So when her intestines, they were covering it, holding it down.
Yeah, so it was like, it was just cocooning it. So what happened was that my immune system started dying off, because for so many months it was keeping me alive. It just started dying down. So then the bacteria started leaking into my system, which it's like poison in your blood. Yeah, exactly. So then they were like, "Oh my God, you're the next surgery. We're taking you in right away."
She called me. She says, they're about to see me. And then she called me again. I'm going in for surgery.
Right.
I'm like, it's about time. Do I have to fly over there and tell people you got to look at my
So they took me in, and I was in a room originally with my boyfriend in the hospital. And because it was such a rare case, when they took me in, I was like one of those people that like all the students come in to watch the surgery because it's so rare. The last thing I remember seeing was my boyfriend sitting in front of the window in my room, in the room in the hospital. And then they took me away. They had me count down, and then all of a sudden I see myself lying on the bed.
Wow.
And I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? And I see myself lying there on the bed, and they're freaking out, and they're trying to do some, I don't know, maybe cleaning of something. Maybe it spilled all over. I don't know what happened exactly. Well, at that moment, I knew when I came back. But all of a sudden, I'm looking around, and I feel this entity behind me, and like this warm, like comforting, like a big giant teddy bear of some sort, like just really safe, and just whisper in my ear, "It's okay, you can go now." Wow. And I was like,
I don't want to go.
I was like, what do you mean? they're like, it's like, and the entity was like, you came and did everything you needed to do. You can go now.
No.
Yeah.
No.
As I was talking to this entity, I could see, like, you know how they say that you see the light?
Yeah.
I really did. And it was like this warm, like a, how do you explain it? It's like a time in the day where the sun is like orange.
Golden hour.
That. It's like,
Spencer
or,
Petey
and like,
over here.
it's so beautiful and like warm, and you're just like, and I felt that, and I felt that, like, I was like, well, what happens if I go there? Because he was like, you can go into the light. And I was like, well, what happens if I go there? And he's like, he didn't say anything, but I was getting closer to it, and I just felt warm and safe and like comforting and peace and just relax. It was like so beautiful. And he's like, or you can stay if you like. And I was like, well, what
Let's
would
do that one.
I was like, well, what would happen if I stay? And then all of a sudden, it was like a shift, and I was in the same room that they had taken me from, and my stepmom was there. And my boyfriend was sitting by the window, but my stepmom all of a sudden was sitting in the chair next to the bed.
Okay.
And she was on her phone. And I was like, but my family. And he's like, well, you can stay. And then all of a sudden, like, and he showed me like all these flashes, and I'm a firm believer, like, I don't want to talk about it because I want some of the things to happen, because the things are really good.
You don't want to jinx yourself.
I don't want to jinx it, but I will say that he did tell me that, you know, it's going to be very difficult, and I did see the difficult stuff, but it was going to be worth it in the long run. But it was up to me. The choice was up to me if I wanted to stay or go. But he was like, you know, your task is already completed here.
Interesting.
So really, it's like I'm here for fun. Like, my task has already been completed, and I just got, you know, like, and I've heard that a lot, where they say that, like, people who believe in reincarnation, which I'm one of those people, they say that, like, you come in and you learn. You have different like levels, and you learn, right? And once you complete those tasks, then you can move on to the next level.
Oh, I see.
Right? And so you just keep doing the thing.
Kind of like Buddhism.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Because that was going to be my question, because I would have been like, well, what did I complete? Like, I want to know.
But you know,
But
but at that moment in time, like, you don't even think about it. You're like, all right, cool, I completed it. Like, I can go or I can stay. I can have fun or I can move on. You know, and I was like, I think I'm gonna stay. And
Good choice. Thank you.
Yeah, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, I think I'm gonna stay. And he was like, and I feel that it was a he, but it was like, I remember kind of seeing something. This guy was handsome.
It was very tempting for you to stay. It's warm. We got this good-looking guy.
Something, but I just felt so safe and loved and secure. And to this day, I still feel that he's around me. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's where people come up with guardian angels.
I actually wrote that down because I was going to ask what you guys thought about that.
You know, I don't know what it is, but I definitely feel that I have something around me that, like, protects me and, like, gives me, you know, like, something that's looking out for me, for sure. And when I came back, they rolled me into the room, and I saw my stepmom sitting in that chair on her phone, and my boyfriend sitting right by the window, because before, when they rolled me out, my stepmom wasn't there. You know, and all of a sudden, like, they were rolling me in, and I was opening up my eyes. I'm like, what's going on?
So what happened to you on the table?
So they told me exactly that when they opened me up and they were trying to remove everything, it spilled inside of me.
Oh my God.
And
Like
it
the bacteria?
and it caused my my body a shock that it, like, I died for like a few like minutes or something, seconds.
So they actually said that, like, you had no pulse for, oh my God.
Yeah, they revived me. Yeah, it was crazy.
Wow.
That is crazy.
But I will say that from all the complications, the hospital did end up paying for everything. They paid for everything.
We won't say what hospital.
No, we won't. We won't. But yeah, it was crazy.
So both of you had very good death experiences, which is, like, very comforting.
So to speak.
Yeah.
Well, so to speak, but, you know, I'm not really afraid of dying. I'm more afraid of getting old, I think, and being able to, like, not take care of myself to the point, but also being at that point where, like, you realize you're about to die. I think that's when I'll actually be scared, is like when I realize after hearing your stories, it makes it more comforting.
I believe that when it's time for whoever I know in my life, I know my mom is prepared, my dad might not be so much prepared. My mom, myself, I know my girls are, but the best thing for you to understand is everything that you do, you be grateful for it, because what you're going to do at the end of your life is be grateful for all of that stuff. And once you're grateful and you embrace it, you're ready to let go. But if you're like, oh, my kid is in a wheelchair and I have to be here and I have to take care of him and everything, that's not, you weren't born here to take on those kind of stuff. That person in the wheelchair has to learn how to deal with theirs.
That's their karma. That's what they're dealing with.
Their
learning experience.
A big believer in karma.
Oh yeah, me
Karma's
too.
my religion.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I tell her, just stay back and you watch what's going to happen to that person. You know, you wish them all the best, because I believe what you do and whatever energy you send out will come back to you.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know you hurt me, and I hope that you will fix yourself so you don't hurt anybody else. Pretty much it.
And that, because teens, 20s, I was more like a vindictive person. And then I realized...
So just a teenager, basically.
Basically, yeah. You know, I feel most people are that way. And then I felt like when I hit my 30s, like I felt this like big spiritual growth and started just putting out so much like positive energy and just did not believe in retaliation or hurting anyone. Just, you know, I'll let the universe take care of that person if they do me wrong or do someone I care about wrong. I'll take care of myself. I'll be the bigger person. And I just noticed that the universe just started giving back, like,
big
you know, like my life just improved so much. And even when things were bad, they were bad in the most possible, like the best possible way. Yes. Because everyone's going to have hardships no matter what. If like someone I cared about, like, like Mindy, she developed like breast cancer and like horrible, but it like changed her life for the better in so many ways. It's like hard to explain. Like it was this horrible thing that happened to her, and I watched, she had like this like epiphany and just became like I think her life got infinitely better because of it. Which
so
is
you
like,
just outed me, but no.
Oh, sorry. Well, we can cut this out of the episode.
No, I'm totally kidding. But no, but it's true though, because and I won't go into this very much either really, or say much detail wise, but like it's been a rough journey.
Absolutely.
Recovering, trying to figure out, because I'm still in post treatment, but like I'm technically in remission and whatever, but it did absolutely remind me of what's important, but also like there was some negativity that arose because of it, and I had to make a few changes in my life that I'm still ironing out. But same kind of thing, like I was really angry at the time it was happening, but now I'm like, you know what? I got myself out of that situation. Absolutely. And I'm, even at now my most stressful moments, it's not as bad as it was. So
made you a better person.
Exactly. And same thing, whatever caused all of the negativity, I wished them well, and I hope they learned from it. You know what I mean? Like,
you know, and another thing too is that I believe like there is no point in holding on to grudges.
Right.
Because the moment, and always give thanks. Like, if somebody did you wrong, you know, like, think about it. And you don't have to say thank you to that person necessarily, but, like, give thanks within yourself. You know, thank you for giving me that experience. Yes. Because now I know. And I learn, you know, not to trust people like you, or to be more wise about my decisions, or whatever it may be. I wish I could remember the author, but there was this book that I read. It was also one of the podcasts that I've listened to, where she would say every morning you wake up and for every step it takes, she would say, for every step it would take her to get from her bedroom to her work. Wow. or to the bathroom, whichever one it was, I can't remember. She would say one step would be thank, and the other one would be you. Thank you. thank you, thank you. And then by the time she got to her place, she'd say, thank you to the universe for everything that was given to her, for the opportunities, the goods, the bads, the learning, everything, So that way you feel that release of tension, of grudges, because also the moment that you hold on to all that negativity, you're more bound to bring negativity to you, just like you are to bring negative spirits to you.
Open up yourself, especially if you're very, sensitive to all that stuff.
And I had a little bit of almost like survivor's guilt or whatever that's called, because I would see, and when I still go for the treatments I get, I still see people that are in way worse situations than I am. And like when I think about it now, especially because I am in a better place, like it's like, well, it was horrible, but it could have been worse, and I'm lucky, and that's how I think about it.
I don't know if you noticed when I shaked your hand when I first saw you. When we were over there and I shook your hand, I was gonna say something.
Oh, really?
Like I was gonna say something to you, but hi, how you feeling? All right. I know you're doing really well.
Oh, wow. But interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I'm glad you told me that now, because if you said that when you walked in, I probably would have just like fallen over.
When you shook my hand, did you see like a big demon behind me?
No.
Is that shadow figure still hanging out?
Beautiful person. And you're really beautiful.
Thank you.
You are so beautiful. I know. You are very beautiful.
I'm actually wearing, because I knew we were going to be doing this interview, I'm not a hugely like religious person, but I'm spiritual, and I love religious iconography. I think it's just beautiful, and my mom gave me this Virgin Mary pendant when I was little, because it's similar to one that she had. She and my dad are going on vacation today, traveling, and so I always just wear it to make me feel better. But
Connection.
I'm feeling like it's like a family connection day.
There you go.
This whole conversation.
Sure. Awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of families, you have a uncle that is a ghost hunter?
Oh, yeah. Well, he used to be.
Used to be.
He used to be a ghost hunter.
Is he retired?
He is.
Okay.
Yeah, he did it only for like maybe like a year or two.
How did he get involved? Like,
I don't know. This is a question to ask him.
Okay.
and I can get you in contact with him, but he has some interesting stories.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't want to tell you the stories because I don't want to mess up the details. But he like I said, that was one of the things that he did advise me about, your peripheral vision, and like when you want to see them, try not to blink, because every time you blink, you're like not reprogramming, but
Refreshing.
exactly your vision, right?
Yeah, interesting.
So
You're
so that's why when
refreshing, so
people like
things escape.
even in movies, that like one minute you see it, next minute it's gone.
Yeah. And thank you for the boo tip, because we have known each other for a very long time, and we've always believed in this kind of stuff and been interested in it. We've always said that whichever one of us goes first is going to try and come back and get the other one.
I say that
and
to my
so,
daughters all the time.
My grandmother was talking, I remember when she was still alive, with one of her sisters, and said, if you go before me, feel free to come back and be like, hi Vivian, how are you? Don't be like, boogity, boogity, boogity. And like Sharon, we were little, she used to creep me out.
If I die first.
So now I'm just going to turn around and say boo and chase you away.
That's right. That's all you have to do, because they're not.
Because she
I'll
will
have
scare
a mirror,
me.
though.
I'll have a mirror.
So you'll just scare yourself and I'll be like, I win, bitch. No.
She will. When we were in the 8th grade, we had a heat lamp in our basement bathroom, and Sharon went in there and like came out of the bathroom with just the heat lamp on and was like acting all creepy, and I started slowly, I was like, stop it, and I like freaked out, and my mom was like, what are you guys doing? And I was like, oh, Sharon's just freaking me out. My mom's like, oh, whatever, all right, just okay, usual, get it.
The normal stuff.
But I'm prepared now.
So I noticed that when I earlier I mentioned sleep paralysis, and I kind of saw both your eyes light up. I don't really know much about sleep paralysis. Do you guys have any? Was there something that like?
Well, just that you have to be very careful when you do stuff like that, because that's like an opening, because you're in that stage of half asleep, half awake, and if you're not prepared, it will get inside of you. because that's what they're there for.
Just to add on to what you're saying, most of the time, like, have you ever heard when certain religions, I'm not going to say which ones, say that meditating is like, messing with the devil?
I have not heard that.
I have actually not heard that.
No?
I've always heard and thought of meditation as a good thing.
I can guess which religions you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sure.
We will leave that out for the listeners to see.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why they say that, is because when you're meditating, you go into a realm where you're like, you can almost do astral projecting.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So your spirit in astral projection leaves your body.
Yeah.
So now you're a shell. So then something can come into your body, which is in the state of half asleep, half awake. Right? Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's the reason why you have to be very careful when that happens. You have to. It's really difficult because every time when I was growing up, my mom was always telling me, be conscious, in Spanish, la conciencia. You make sure you're conscious as to what it is you're doing at all times. You got to be conscious of everything. I'm taking a step. I'm taking a, that way. It's a practice you have to do every day. Like, I left my phone here. I left this, and if you don't know where all that, you're not conscious of your daily stuff. You're in automatic. Button. You're just like, I gotta go there. Yeah. Where did I do everything? Where did I leave?
So many people
you can't do that. You can't live like that because you're opening up doors and portholes and all this stuff for other things to take over you or people around you. You bring them in. So, you always have to be conscious. The spirituality is about that. It's about opening up your consciousness. It's about being, and you're the only ones who can control your surroundings. The only one.
Interesting. Do you guys? So I think we talked about this briefly, but I'm just curious. Do you guys, like, I don't want to say believe in that sound, but like, how do you feel about like the idea of spirit guides?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's what I was thinking about with Tatiana, your story.
So with me, okay, so I was raised with many different beliefs. I was raised mainly that, like, everything was once one. And then it branched out. So to study different religions, understand different religions, and kind of like puzzle piece it to see which ones work best and how it like all comes together. So I believe in everything, like I believe in Krishna, I believe in meditation, I believe in Buddhism, I believe in, Christianity, I believe in, paganism, everything that you can think of, because I believe that it was all once one. I don't understand, like, now we're getting into religion, but right. I don't understand how you can say that Jesus walked on water and call that a miracle, but then you see somebody else do it and say it's witchcraft. Right. Mm-hmm. That to me doesn't make sense. Right. Same with like making water into wine, same thing, that doesn't make sense. Because Jesus was considered a son of God, aren't we all children of God? Right. That doesn't make any sense to me. Right. So I believe in all of it as far as, guidance and
the
stuff.
way that I taught it to my kids was that religion and faith and all that is just like a rosary. Everything is glued together, stuck together, and comes out to one all. It's all brought together like a rosary. I think, what is the purpose of a rosary? I really don't know. To make sure you can count each one as you're doing it. But I believe that was meant to keep everything together and it's one.
That's a really great metaphor. This is an episode for my dad, apparently, because my dad is the same way. He was raised Catholic, but he has like his own copy of like the Quran and like all different kinds. And he just loves reading all the different...
And that's the thing, too. Like, I was, on my dad's side, they're very Catholic. On my mother's side, I was very spiritual. So I got a sense of both, and I got to see both. And that's how I was able to put everything.
Like, when I got together with my husband, I told him, their father, I said, look, I'm not going to baptize the kids. I want them to choose what it is that they feel. I don't want to be the one choosing for them. Yeah. So she chose what she wanted, and my other one chose what she wanted, because I'm not the one who's going to be dedicating myself for them. It's going to be them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how they were brought up.
I kind of think that's a good way to bring people.
I took them everywhere. They went to church. They went to temples. They went to everything. I wanted them to know, don't be like this, like a horse with her, one-sided. Be well-rounded.
Learn everything. Decide for yourself.
Help where you want them. Help where it is that needs help, and do what it is you need to do.
And my dad's always like, I'm just astounded because if you do read all sorts of different texts, there are so many reoccurring themes, just told slightly differently.
Absolutely.
So that's why he's like, obviously there's got to be something to it.
That's how I am.
But but he's like, why are we all fighting over this? Because ultimately, I don't think the name matters.
Down to it. And it's interesting because all religions, they all believe in the paranormal.
Right.
All of them in different ways.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, each religion or each culture has their version of ghosts, right? Their stories and demons and what happens in the afterlife, and all that stuff. It's just a matter of like studying them and like being more open-minded and understanding, so that way you can understand, what are spirits doing here? What do they want? Where do they come from? Stuff like that. I think if you study all different cultures, perhaps we can have like a better understanding.
I agree. And like, I personally don't believe in like a God. I believe more in like an energy. I will never tell anyone your beliefs are wrong.
Right.
But I personally don't believe in that. I do believe in ghosts, however, and I believe in spirits, but then I kind of like get into arguments with myself. Well, like, so if you don't believe in God and you don't necessarily believe in like angels, how can you believe in ghosts and demons?
Right.
But I believe that you believe in something greater than yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you believe in something greater than yourself, then you're a positive person. So there's got to be positive and negative, white and black. So that's where all that comes in. That's why you feel comfortable believing it, because you know that there is something greater than you.
But I think it's also because like a lot of the demons, at least when you see like in movies and stuff, or they even do like, the real life exorcisms, whether or not those are real. I think most of them are. I think a lot of them are made up. I think it's more like a psychological. Yeah.
Exactly.
I definitely believe that demons can inhabit people. I think a lot of the exorcisms they show on TV and stuff are people with psychological issues that are, just believe that they're being possessed.
Which is almost just as strong, really, because the brain is really powerful.
It can be, but
it's harder to combat those.
Yeah, right?
Because it's
in there. Yeah.
It's in there.
Because I did just listen to an episode of Last Podcast on the Left recently where they were talking about an exorcism of a guy who was in England, and they were saying about how that a lot of people, I guess like in like psychologists have studied that if you believe that you're possessed by a demon, that it's actually more beneficial to perform an exorcism on them than it is to give them medication.
Yeah.
Because it's their belief.
It's their belief. Yeah. So if you exorcise them, it would help more than actually giving them medication.
I believe that.
Sure.
I do too. And I'm going to pull my nerd card right now, but not the original, but I'm a huge fan of the rebooted version of Battlestar Galactica. I don't know if you...
I love Battlestar Galactica.
Okay, so say we all. Yeah. Okay, great. So that, to me, for that, they kind of, for me, described religion, because they had their Bible, and sorry, I'm alienating Sharon and Spencer a little bit here, but they had a version of a Bible, of a theology, but it wasn't like you said, like, gray-haired man on a cloud or whatever. It was just that there was something's connecting us, and there is a higher power that is tying all of this together. That when you talked about your experience and feeling like you could see everyone and everything at the same time, like that made me think of that right away.
Well, let me tell you, I strongly believe that a lot of the things that make sense to you, me, and that you see it in a movie is because that person went through it. That writer, that producer, that is sharing what they went through. Example, the one with Keanu Reeves, Constantine.
Oh.
To me, that's where the demons are, and that's how people who are, you open them up, you bring things that are supposed to be buried and kept secret, and how, someone put it there. Somebody did that. So it gets disturbed. You open up something, portal, something like that. To me, I love that movie just because of how it all interacts with the reality and the out, and how one man is trying to save everything. That's how we should be, trying to save, but also protecting ourselves. And there's a lot of people that want to go into a scary haunted house, but they don't know how to protect themselves. Then what?
Right.
Like he would just sit and make sure that he knows that he's grounded, and he's got this, he's got the cat that's going to help him, he's got all the stuff that's going to be there before he goes into any kind of craziness. That's how we all should, if we're going to go into that. I don't want to go there, but
I was just going to say,
but we definitely need to prepare
oh
for
yes,
it.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Prepare yourselves. Prepare yourselves. 'Cause otherwise, you're going to have to call me, and I'm going to have to come and help you.
There's only one place that's supposedly haunted that I would willingly stay the night in, and my favorite scary movie of all time is The Haunting, the 1963 version.
Oh my God.
And that the exterior shots specifically were shot at
the Mental Institute, right?
No, it's Eddington Park, and it's a real mansion. It's in England.
Oh.
And now, of course, because it is so large, they've kept the like historical look and feel, but they've of course added like outdoor pools and it made it like a resort. But I would stay there. I would want to prevent. I've heard that they have their own stories. We talked about this a little bit on a previous episode. They have their own stories at the actual hotel. I just because I love that movie, I would love to stay there, but I would absolutely go unprotected. But otherwise, if someone was like, I think this place is haunted, do you want to check it out?
Good.
No, I don't really.
Do it.
You go and report back.
Well, one of the haunted places in Chicago is what used to be Excalibur, and now
I've heard that.
and I've spoken to a lot of the staff members there because I have a friend who's a DJ there and a friend that works there, and they said that it's definitely haunted because that place used to be the morgue.
Oh my gosh.
That's where they took they took all the bodies from the fire that happened here in Chicago.
The Iroquois or the
I don't know,
the big fire.
The big fire,
the big fire
in Chicago.
The fire.
I have a friend who did a play
they
about
took
the
it there.
Iroquois theater fire, so that's what I think of every time someone says fire. But yes, there was a bigger fire in
I did
Chicago.
not know that was a more.
You guys should look into it. That'd be awesome. I went there with you.
Yeah.
And we took over there indefinitely. It needs to go.
And they haven't remodeled the outside of it either.
Yeah, that's pretty
And the
cool.
basement,
Very
they told me they kind of kept it the same, which is really weird because that's where they would burn bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's an interesting story. I haven't told my mom this one yet.
Uh-oh.
And this is just recent too. So I was in a relationship, and before I moved into the apartment that I'm in now.
Your mom's shaking her head. I'm guessing she'd not approve of this relationship.
And
If my girls would listen to me, they'd be so happy.
Gotta learn.
I'm sure every family member or parent says that.
They know that I'm the one that teaches them and all that, and they don't listen.
You gotta make your own mistakes and learn from them.
No, I tell them, learn from my mistakes. That's the smart thing to do.
Anyway, the story is, so he asked me to move in with him, and I did. But before I even moved in with him, I went to the house, and I felt something there, and I didn't know what it was, and I'm like, is this place haunted? And he's like, no, they built it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay. And it's right in front of a church. But I moved in because, like, I would cleanse the house, whatever, sage it. And then, like, there would be a couple times that he would be gone. And the way that the house is formed is that there's, I guess you could say, like, a garden apartment that's not really a full apartment. There's, like, a bedroom and a bathroom and an extra bedroom. And then you go up the stairs, and then that's where, like, the living room is, and the kitchen, the dining room, and another bedroom, right? But then, like, the upper stairs of that is a whole nother apartment that we would rent out, right?
Okay.
But the garden apartment and the first floor was our apartment, okay? Well, I would be in the room in the basement, and And all of a sudden, I would hear like running, just running upstairs. Mind you, there's nobody there because we're not renting that floor out.
Right.
And I would just ignore it because, I don't want to acknowledge anything, so I just ignore it. One day, I'm sleeping on the bed, and he has a Tempur-Pedic, like, king-size bed. And I'm sleeping on the bed, and I'm thinking that he, all of a sudden, like, I feel something, like, sit next to me by my leg. And I'm thinking it's him. Sure. And I open my eyes, and there's nothing there but an imprint.
Oh, boy.
Just an imprint, and he's not even home. And I'm like, what the hell? And I would see my cat just kind of looking at something and just kind of like, sometimes like hissing at something. And I'm like, what are you looking at? And then she would like hide. She'd hide a lot. Like, I'm like, what the hell is going on? We were renting out a house that belongs to a friend. And he stored a lot of his stuff there, him and his wife. And they were coming in to get all their stuff. Well, when they came, I went to sleep. Well, I went downstairs to sleep. I said goodnight to them, and they were still up, and they were talking to my boyfriend at the time. And I overheard them talking about ghosts and stuff, and like tarot cards and whatever. And so I go upstairs, and I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And they're like, oh, we're just talking about the history of the house. I'm like, what about the history of the house? Apparently, the first floor of that house was moved. What? It was, yeah. So it used to be in some other part of Illinois, and they moved it because there was no morgue in the church by the churches that are around that area. They didn't have a morgue.
So they moved a house.
So they moved this. It wasn't a house. It used to be a morgue.
No.
They moved it.
Oh my God.
They moved it over, and then they added on to it.
Gosh.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Your boyfriend.
So you were living in a morgue.
I was living in a morgue.
All right, well, I think that's a really good place to end. Join us next week for the last part of our interview with Tatiana and Adriana. And if you have your own stories about living in a morgue, or if you have ever died and you want to talk about that, if you have any other ghost stories, scary stories, whatever you want to talk about, please email us at whorestalkhorror@gmail.com and follow us on social media. And as always, thanks for getting creepy with us.